Thank you for staying with us. We do have one more round of panel discussions before we conclude this morning's session. And for this upcoming session, we will focus on common values. With digitalization, the fourth industrial revolution, the concept proposed by Professor Schwab at the World Economic Forum in 2016, over the past 10 years, there has been even more divisions, wars, proxy wars, arguably. How can we go about resolving or addressing some of these issues? How can we maximize the power of culture, really, to have more empathy and mutual understanding? So for this upcoming panel discussion, we have a very exciting group of panelists. Wang is chairman of China Publishing Group. Yang Jing is former ambassador and permanent delegate of China to UNESCO. David Ferguson is honorary chief English editor of Foreign Languages Press and recipient of the Chinese Government Friendship Award and Orchid Award. Lamicio Bonifacio is artistic director of the International Theatre Institute. James Su is chairman of the Chinese American Film Festival. And Daniel Mawaring is CEO of IMAX China. 好，那么我们下面第一个问题呢，首先请教黄。
Our very first question is for Mr. Huang. We know that Mr. Huang, you must have also noticed that there's a difference between reading on the paper or reading on the screen. For reading on the screen, everything is like so seamless and they just falling through the cracks. For reading paper books, you have a lot of time, your thoughts and your fingers get to linger on the book page. In this new era, what are the challenges and what are the highlights?
哪些挑战？当然还有哪些亮点？
刚才主持人讲，出版
Paper publishing and publishing are usually connected in people's mind. The very nature of publishing is about conveying the language and the message and the culture and values via different formats. So it's not just about paper publication. It is also about promoting of culture. It's about even leading the trend of culture. In today's world, we have been overblown by the internet and information. Do we still need to have a strong publishing sector? I think the answer is still yes. For the generative AI, with some kind of refinement, with a little bit of removing the redundant or the wrong information from it, we see the final result generated by the large language models. And the publishing has never been missing from this process. It also can be reflected by books, of course, but also by digital content. With translation, with compilement, with editing, and eventually for publishing with different cultural background and different languages, we still can manage to build a bridge for mutual understanding and mutual recognition. The role played by publishing sector is that we can transcend cultural differences or even some conflicts, because we do share some certain values as human beings, such as democracy and freedom, fairness and justice. So we are very much willing to continue to contribute our wisdom and strength to this effort. Thank you so much.
贡献我们的出版力量。谢谢主持人。
好， Now my next question goes to you, David. Now it looks to us that whoever controls the narratives manipulates the minds of the mass. Let's put it that way. How do you cope with that reality, and what do you think can be done at this point to really, first of all, break out of the information cocoons, which are ubiquitous, and secondly, to begin to try to understand each other more beyond the official narratives, beyond politics and all the geopolitical divides?
I express a similar thought myself. I say whoever controls the megaphone controls the message. One of the things that we have to be very conscious of is that Western soft power is such that at the moment they control the message and they dictate the terms of the debate that we are having. People tend to think of culture as something that is ancient and set in stone. That is not at all the case. Culture is constantly in the process of being created and developing. The books that I write, in 1,000 years from now, they will be ancient culture, if I'm lucky. How does that relate to human values? One of the most important parts of traditional Chinese culture is human values. Things like peace, things like harmony, things like equality, things like unity in diversity. Now, up until very recently, I would have said that these are universal human values. And I think, like almost everybody in this room, I've been profoundly shocked over the last couple of years by how quickly and easily individual human beings can be warped to the extent that they lose sight of these values. Now, China has to take the lead in bringing us back onto the path of human values, in restoring these human values. And how do you do that? That comes down to the question. Where does a farmer plant his seed? A farmer plants his seed in the most fertile ground. And what is the most fertile ground that we have to work with? Is young people. Because young people are naturally more open, more friendly, more idealistic than the elders. And that means that must be our target audience. To me, China relies in its international communication strategy too much on its formal political discourse. And I'm speaking as someone who's part of that discourse. And I think what China needs to do is find a much broader strategy. They need to engage with a mass audience. They need to engage with a younger audience. And I think from the perspective of cultural innovation, that is what needs to happen. China needs a broader international dialogue targeting a much wider audience.
I was talking Chinese just a moment that Foreign Affairs, a news magazine that is not necessarily the most friendly towards China, towards everything Chinese, recently published an article. Amazingly, it said that two things really worked when it comes to China's publicity to the outside world. One is gaming industry, the Black Wukong, and stuff like that. And the other thing is vlogging. The vloggers who are flocking to China, leveraging the visa-free policies that China has extended to much of the world these days. Now, cinema is a very important tool of communication. So Daniel, let me turn to you for the next question. IMAX China, you're the CEO of it. Because so many times and so often we rely on our senses, what we smell, what we touch, what we see, that can be internalized as our experiences. Talk to us about the immersive cinema and the visual innovations that IMAX has been doing when it comes to bridging the gap of cultural understanding.
Well, first off, I think it comes first in our network. IMAX operates in 86 different countries across the world. We have over 1,800 screens across the world, over 800 here in China. Over the past few years, we've helped deliver great films like Ne Zha 2, 流浪地球2, and Creation of the Gods to audiences all over the world, leveraging our network and our IMAX experience. So that's a really compelling tool that we like to use for bridging culture around the world. We're turning our theaters now into multi-purpose cultural destinations. So in addition to film, we are doing more in sports, music, and other forms of cultural entertainment. So we see IMAX as a destination for cultures of all sorts of entertainment and allowing those dialogues and experiences to take place, whether it's through esports, for which we did a live event last year here in China, or even basketball games. I think it comes down to people. We pride ourselves in connecting creators. Just last year, bridged a conversation between Christopher Nolan and a very famous cinematographer named Cao Yu here in China. And having those conversations between storytellers and high-level filmmakers at that level who are both using our advanced technology in their filmmaking is a really wonderful thing. And then eventually, once they've made those movies, we can then go and distribute them all over the world in our cinemas. So I think it's a real combination of technology, creativity, and human beings.
So James, there has been this deficit that we've been talking about for decades on end. People count how many Chinese films that are exported to the United States, how many Chinese films the Americans got to watch, versus how many Hollywood movies that's introduced to China each year. I know that your academy, Chinese American Film Festival, has been doing just that to try to somehow reverse that deficit. Tell us a bit about that.
Actually, the China America Films Festival actually has enjoyed 21 years of development, and we have witnessed the prosperity of China's film industry, and we have witnessed the enhancement of China's film industry's position. And to the question raised by you just now, truth to be told that the films or the culture between China and US actually has come to a stage both sides are looking at each other in equal eyes in terms of the volumes, in terms of the technology applied, in terms of the way of telling the stories. Both sides are at the equal footing position right now. And here I'd like to share with you some of my observations. First one is empowerment by digital technology. Innovations has been talked about repeatedly, talking about the civilizational exchanges and ideas of the cultural exchange and so on and so forth. I believe all of these attitudes are positive. In the past more than 20 years, I've been working in this area, especially in the industry of filmmaking.
Let me ask Lamisio, theater is so important when it comes to stimulating creativity, creating this public space where people feel good, learn about each other, and be present. So tell us a bit about the work that you're doing and how you think theater can really transcend borders and cultures.
The work of artists is to search for this common genealogy that we all have. As the ambassador for IITI, I've made my work around over 50 countries around the world. And what I see is, what I observe is somehow a disconnection between the young generation who are not here speaking about these things and culture and traditions. This is a problem. When I think about this cultural innovation, I think more of the problem. As a theater director, you think, how can I improve a situation, a light or an actor? So with this cultural innovation, I think, what are the barriers to this? Do we honestly commit to this such an idea? Or do we fall back into our insecurities as human beings, our institutional conservatism, our policy makers? It takes more than just declarations and conversations. We do have to act. As for ITI, we have more than 80 centers around the world, and where different centers are interacting with their own context. Last year, I started to work in China, and I created a work with the Yi people in Sichuan. And now we are touring around the world. And after this conversation, I go to Luku Lake to work with the Moso people. And so we are constantly on the travel to bridge the differences that we have and to find the common genealogy. Otherwise, technology becomes an enemy that leads us and defines who we are rather than ourselves. We need to find the way that we can move forward together.
杨教授，我知道您在我们的联合国系统。
You've been working in UN systems for a long time on behalf of China. These three initiatives provided by China as the public goods, I don't know whether it is possible to spread the influence of this civilization initiative proposed by China in UN system and world at large. Thank you. This year is the 80th anniversary of the establishment of UN. The fundamental purpose of establishing UN is for peace and international cooperation. President Xi Jinping proposed international development initiative, security initiative, and civilization initiative for the purpose of echoing this principle of UN by providing China's versions of solution. So I believe the human common values boil down to peace, development, equality, justice. democracy, freedom, peace must come first. And to your question, there are two suggestions. The first one is that we must start with very little kids. Like in elementary school and middle school, we can start the course of understanding the civilizations of the world, because the UN principle number one is that war coming from the misunderstanding of the people to people. So we must set up the war to protect ourselves against the possibilities of wars. Like the misunderstanding of the people about other peoples lead to the misconception and doubt and skepticism about other people.
That's why international understanding is very much important, and we have to make our young generation more capable and more competent to be part of the change. This is the very most important mission. Second point is that to build a platform of cooperation for the youth coming from different countries to learning by doing it. The world is a big classroom. It's not just the professors who are giving the lectures or people who are learning in front of a big screen, but it should be getting into people's daily life, to really experience life, to know about things in life, to really do your share of contribution to change the inequality of our social development, to change the inequality of different genders. I think this is the most important thing. I think you spoke very well, Ambassador Yang. I think to provide a international exposure in the education is very important. I think there's also the phrase "learning by doing," which is also quite a key phrase when it comes to the process of learning.
洞见和给我们带来的观察 and we do have a limited time offer, and thank you so much for your insights. We learned a whole lot, and that's a wrap. That will do it for this panel discussion at the Civilizations Dialogue. I'm Wang Guan with CGTN. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see you again next year.